Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving headfirst into a story that, well, it sounds like it's ripped straight from a modern thriller, but it's very real. A very recent cyber fraud bust. Imagine a truly sophisticated fake stock market investment scam uncovered over in Varanasi, India. It's impacting countless individuals. It's a sobering reminder, really, of just how cunning these operations can be. And honestly, the details you sent us are pretty wild.
They are, yeah. And what makes this deep dive so compelling, I think, is how these schemes masterfully exploit, fundamental human desires, financial growth, opportunity, often by mimicking established legitimate pathways. Our goal isn't just to chronicle the events, right? But to really dissect how this type of fraud operates at its core. From that initial lure to the point where victims realize they've been trapped, we want to extract some actionable lessons that can significantly bolster, well, all of our awareness and protect us in this increasingly digital world.
That's such a crucial point because the scale of this particular operation, the sheer audacity of it, it really underscores the real-world impact these scams have. This wasn't some small-time operation, was it? I mean, it demanded a significant police action. That's a testament to the dedication of the cybercrime police in dismantling these kinds of illicit networks. It's a story of complex deception, definitely, but also of remarkable vigilance, and we're going to walk you through every twist and turn. So where do these insidious schemes typically begin? I imagine for most people, it's not some grand, overt pitch, but something much more subtle, almost blending into our daily digital lives. Am I right in thinking it often starts with something as seemingly innocuous as like the social media ad?
You've absolutely hit on something crucial there. The sources show us that it absolutely starts with exactly that, a simple, deceptive advertisement on social media platforms. And these aren't just random, poorly designed ads. They are meticulously crafted. They promise lucrative, almost unbelievable stock market opportunities. They might show flashy graphics, compelling headlines, maybe even fake testimonials, all designed to grab your attention and make you believe that financial freedom is just, well, a click away. They tap directly into that universal desire for growth, for better future, making it seem incredibly accessible, incredibly easy to achieve.
That's a powerful hook, a really powerful hook. But then, once someone clicks or shows interest, what's the next step? How do they draw them deeper into this web? How do these initial contact points manage to bypass our usual skepticism? Especially when, let's face it, we're generally aware of online scams these days.
That's precisely where the psychological manipulation really kicks in. Once a victim shows even a flicker of interest, maybe by clicking an ad or filling out a quick online form, telecallers make immediate contact. Personalized contact. This isn't a cold call, it's a follow-up. Leveraging that initial spark of curiosity, presenting a tailored approach. And what's particularly insidious, as the sources reveal, is that these operators aren't just talking. They share fake videos. Videos meticulously produced to depict fabricated gains, showing supposed large profits accumulating rapidly in trading accounts.
Wow, so they're not just selling a dream, they're actually providing a fake sneak peek into it.
Exactly. Yeah, this visual proof is incredibly persuasive. It triggers a powerful cognitive bias, known as the illusory truth effect. When we see something, even if we consciously know it might be fabricated, our brains tend to process it as more credible, especially when it aligns with our hopes, our aspirations. This bypasses rational thought. It creates a powerful sense of social proof, even when it's entirely manufactured. It makes the impossible seem not just possible, but, imminent. Couple that with the persuasive language of a trained telecaller promising to guide you to similar riches. Well, it's a potent cocktail. They're not just pitching an investment, they're selling a meticulously constructed visual narrative of success.
It's incredible to think about the immediate impact of that kind of evidence, even if it's completely fake. When you see something like that, something so tangible, it's alarmingly easy for our guard to drop, isn't it? Especially if we're feeling maybe financially vulnerable or genuinely looking for ways to grow our savings. The fraudsters understood the power of a visual story, a narrative of success that bypasses rational thought and goes straight for aspiration. You're not just hearing a promise, you're seeing it unfold. That makes it incredibly difficult to dismiss as merely too good to be true. So, okay, they've established that initial false trust. They've used those compelling fake videos, the persuasive calls. What's the next critical move for these fraudsters? How do they actually get someone from just being interested to actually putting their money into these, fraudulent schemes?
Right. This is where they shift from the lure to direct engagement. The next crucial step is persuading victims to open actual trading accounts. They'd guide them through the process, maybe even offering technical assistance to make it seem effortless, legitimate. They want to ensure these accounts are set up correctly, all under the guise of helping the investor prepare for their incredible impending profits. But the insidious part is how they gain control. This seizure of access is a critical pivot point. Often, it involves convincing victims to install remote desktop software, or maybe to provide login credentials under the guise of technical support. They're essentially handing over complete control of their investment portal to the scammers.
Oof. That's a classic move in other cyber crimes too, isn't it? But applied to finance, it's particularly devastating. So once they have the keys to the kingdom, what then? Is it about outright theft, or is it something more complex?
Well, placing this in a broader context, it is a classic tactic. Gain control, then monetize every single action. Once they had that direct access, the fraudsters began to force repeated buying and selling of shares. But make no mistake, this wasn't for the victim's profit, not at all. The objective was purely to generate heavy, continuous brokerage fees. Each transaction, each churn, regardless of whether the underlying stock actually made money or lost money, generated a fee. A fee that went directly to entities controlled by the fraudsters. They basically turned the very mechanism of trading into a profit center for themselves, entirely at the expense of the unsuspecting investor. This constant activity also created an illusion of active engaged trading, didn't it? Keeping victims focused on the apparent busyness of their portfolio.
Delaying their realization they were being completely scammed.
Exactly.
And here's the truly shocking truth about where those profits actually went. You might think, well, okay, even if they're charging fees, maybe some of the gains would trickle back to the investor. Nope, not at all. The sources clearly state that nearly 40% of the so-called gains, the money that was supposedly being made, was directly transferred into the personal accounts of the operators. Just think about that. You're not just losing money through fees, you're actively generating income for the fraudsters with every single successful trade they make on your behalf. It's deeply cynical, an incredibly effective way to drain funds, making the victims unwitting participants in their own financial demise, all while believing they were on the verge of a big payout. But thankfully, these sophisticated operations don't go unchecked forever. Tell us about the response. Where did the authorities finally step in to dismantle this network?
Fortunately, yes, law enforcement did intervene. This particular crackdown originated from the Cyber Crime Police Station under the Varanasi Commissionerate. They specifically targeted this large-scale cyber fraud network. And this wasn't just a small, isolated incident, it was clearly a major operation. The police response was equally significant, showing a clear focus on tackling these complex online crimes.
And what do the numbers tell us about the scale of this bust? How many individuals were involved? What kind of infrastructure were the police actually dealing with here?
The numbers certainly tell a compelling story about the scale. Our sources indicate that a total of 29 individuals have been arrested as part of this crackdown. So this wasn't just about nabbing a few small-time operators. The police busted 2 illegal call centers. These were clearly the nerve centers of this elaborate scheme where those telecallers were operating from. And beyond that, they conducted raids on 10 other suspected establishments. That highlights the widespread and coordinated nature of this criminal enterprise. The investigation also led to the initial identification of 3 prime accused, located in a place called Raj Tower in Sigra, which points to perhaps a centralized hub for at least part of their activity. This was definitely a sophisticated, widespread network, multiple points of contact, significant logistical coordination.
And to make this even more tangible for everyone listening, some of the arrested individuals were identified. Among them were Ritika Yadav, 25, from Lucknow, Varanasi, Dheeraj Dubey, 34, from Jaunpur district, and Vikram Yadav, 23, from Chandali district. These names give us a glimpse into the human element of this fraud. It shows that the individuals involved span various ages and locations within the region. It wasn't just some faceless organization, it was actual people making these calls, manipulating these accounts, and ultimately perpetrating this deception.
Exactly. And in terms of what was actually seized during the operation, the details are quite telling, if maybe not what you'd expect initially. Police officials recovered 3 mobile phones with SIM cards and a relatively modest $3,830 in cash, about $45 US. Now, while the cash amount might seem small in the grand scheme of potentially multi-million-dollar fraud, it's often these small, seemingly insignificant operational funds that hint at the daily grind of illicit activity for these call centers. Just pocket money, really. The mobile phones and SIM cards, though, those are crucial digital evidence. They likely contain call logs, messages, other digital breadcrumbs that will further trace the network's activities, and importantly, victim lists. And the investigation into the money trail, as mentioned, is still underway. And that's a critical next step in understanding the full financial impact and who else might be involved.
The legal ramifications also sound quite serious. An FIR, which is essentially a first information report, the thing that kickstarts the legal process in India, was registered under multiple sections of the law, specifically sections 318.2, 318.4, and 61.2 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, or BNS, which is India's new criminal code, and also sections 66C and 66D of the Information Technology Act. Can you briefly unpack what these sections signify for our listeners?
Certainly. Yeah, to put it simply, these sections cover pretty severe offenses. Things related to criminal deception, dishonest inducement of property, basically tricking people out of their money or assets, and then various forms of computer-related fraud and identity theft in the digital realm. The inclusion of the IT Act sections 66C and 66D specifically highlights the digital nature of the crime. They deal with identity theft and the use of computer resources for fraudulent activities. So it signifies the multi-layered criminality involved here, addressing both the traditional fraud elements and the cyber-specific dimensions of the case.
Right. And this wasn't some minor local police effort either, was it? The scale of the investigation itself speaks volumes about the complexity they were dealing with.
Precisely. Yeah, the crackdown was conducted under the direct supervision and directives of the Commissioner of Police and the Deputy Commissioner of Police Crime. This wasn't a low-level investigation. It involved a significant allocation of resources, high-level attention. A large joint team was deployed. We're talking inspectors, sub-inspectors, head constables, all drawn from both the Cybercrime Police Station and the Cyber Cell Varanasi. This kind of coordinated, high-level effort really speaks volumes about the complexity of the network they were dismantling and the collaborative approach required to tackle such sophisticated cyber fraud effectively.
Okay, so we've unpacked a pretty complex web of deception today, from that initial, almost innocent-looking ad click on social media promising fortunes, to the persuasive fake videos designed to trigger our cognitive biases, right through to the hijacked trading accounts and the systematic siphoning off of funds through those heavy brokerage fees and, unbelievably, direct transfers. It's a stark reminder of how easily trust can be exploited in the digital landscape, isn't it?
It truly is. What this deep dive really highlights, I think, is the sophisticated psychological and technical engineering these fraudsters employ. And it's often matched only by the trust victims place in seemingly credible online promises. The core lesson here isn't just a generic be careful online. It's about developing specific critical thinking habits. Always independently verify platforms and individuals claiming high returns. Look for official regulatory body registrations like with SEBI in India or the SEC in the US, and be extremely wary of any technical support that asks for remote access or your login credentials. Full stop. If it demands immediate action or guarantees profits that seem way too good to be true without mentioning any corresponding risk, those are immediate, massive red flags.
So as you navigate your own digital world, this deep dive really reminds us to always ask, is this opportunity genuinely realistic? Is it too good to be true? And perhaps more importantly, can I independently verify every single step of this process before I commit any resources, any money, any personal information?
And that raises, I think, an important question for you, the listener, to consider. Beyond simply avoiding these types of scams, which is crucial, obviously, how can we leverage the vast power of online communities and information? The very platforms these fraudsters exploit. How can we use them to truly empower ourselves financially, to make informed, legitimate decisions, rather than falling prey to those who capitalize on our desire for financial growth? What are the mechanisms for genuine collective financial empowerment in this digital age that truly help us build wealth safely and securely? Something to think about.